I'm doing incredibly well. How do you like the setup? The stream's on tour.
Yeah, is this the first day?
This is the first episode we've had outside the studio setup. And so we're going to be moving around London, moving around the world, trying to find some new sets. I've got to say,
What do you think of like the greenery in the background and
I
like the
love it.
painting?
I absolutely love it. When I was doing research for the show, right, I obviously watched a couple of interviews that you've done on other channels and other shows and was like, is this the Founders podcast? Like, are you married to David Senra? Because the setup is the exact same. And I was like, hold on a moment. I've stumbled into a goddess of knowledge right now.
Yeah, well, my husband's a professional writer, so that's like
What's the favorite book on the shelf?
Oh gosh, that's a tricky one. I would say, well, we have a lot of board games. Those are probably more up my alley. I read on a Kindle, so less of the hardcover.
All right, let's get into this. We've carved out an hour for you. I have so many questions. I've deep dived into your life. I've read all of your Substack, and so I have a mental state of Jamesin in my head. I think first and foremost, we have to start with, you grew up with your dad being one of the best poker players in the world. What the hell was that like? What was dinner table at the Jamesin household look like?
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. Like he's had such a successful career, and I've always been really inspired by it. And he's also just like such a good person. He's just like always relaxed. He's calm. I've never heard him yell, or like he's always just like really even toned. And I think that's like a really great characteristic to have as a parent. But I think in general, like I didn't really know how like weird or different it was growing up, because you just like that's your norm. And I think, and then also, he always was, because his schedule was flexible, like he always showed up to all of my soccer games and like was like so supportive in that way, and dinners and stuff. So like I think the flexible lifestyle was like it was yeah, it was really cool to have. And then also, but now like obviously I know that who he is and what he's done and what he's accomplished, and I truly like it's completely unbelievable. And yeah, and I'm so inspired by it.
Okay, the analytical mind of a poker player must have sort of like seeped into you at a young age, right? And the way that you look at the world is probably different to a way a lot of us look at the world, because of the way that you think about risk and probability. I've got to understand, like, how did that rewire you from a young age?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing a lot of games, so I think that was like a big influence as well. And so, I've memories. I've like every single weekend I'd play backgammon with my dad, and when he would talk through plays and we would kind of play out these games. Like I think one of the biggest takeaways is like how many different outcomes there are for each move. And so you're learning how to not only like there's no in like backgammon there's kind of now like more and more one right answer because we have bots. But I think like with backgammon or poker or venture, whatever, so many games, there's just different ways and different things to think about in every single move. And I appreciate that training when I was young. And then, yeah, I mean, I was multi-tabling online poker at age 12. And so obviously that hopefully in like kind of helped with like quick decision making, and also training around value.
Do you look at the founders you invest in and try and identify if they have that same sort of pattern recognition, quick decision making that is taking into account a larger context of the game or risk when you're investing in them?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing, there's definitely, I would say, like a competitive drive that it's really like interesting in founders and like really successful founders. I do think that there like another thing I think about a lot and try to kind of always I guess always challenge myself is that there's so many like in venture and in poker and any sort of game, there's so many different ways to win. And you have to really figure out like what spikes for you. And so I think a lot of what we think about and what we're partnering with founders is maybe they didn't grow up as like professional gamers. I know people love the professional gamer persona, and obviously they're killers. Yeah, yeah, and like they're all killers, the people that like if you're like top in the world at Counter-Strike, like you clearly have like this, capability to hold so many positions in your mind to like yeah, move quickly and to execute and that's incredible and I do think that that's obviously one path to win. But, maybe that's not like the best like if maybe you're building a B2B product and like what you're really good at, what you're really spike at is, partnerships or distribution and that works too. But I do think like it is something that I look for, and I host a lot of poker games at my house, and it's always fun to play with to play with like different founders and engineers and operators, investors, and to like see what their strategy is. Because
Do you find yourself, because your ability is significantly better than theirs, or potentially a lot of them, do you find yourself like playing with them almost in the game of figuring out like how far can I push you? How do I understand the limits of your mind and body?
it's interesting.
Because
I think like
I do that on the show. This is
do
my
you?
poker. This is my poker.
Yeah, what do you feel like do you when you like when you're asking questions and trying to push people, like do you have kind of certain angles that you find yourself taking
Yeah,
in
completely.
framing
It
questions?
is. I find myself being able to like hold a thread of conversation in my mind, knowing what the potential answers would be, but then having to, based on their answer, figure out, okay, so the next question is going to be this, or actually, no, I've got to jump to that part of their context and take them in a direction that I know is going to be conducive for an interesting conversation. Because a lot of people you find, and I'm sure you see this as well, defense is, especially in Europe actually, defense is the best form of attack. Now, when you talk to Americans, it's offense straight up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
both have their absolute plays when needed and when required. I'm very much in like an offensive mode a lot of the time with the show because you've got to find a way to get out the brick wall. We're not in person; it's a little more difficult, and that changes the dynamic again. But it's interesting trying to understand. It's almost like seeing an American football team play, and then watching a German football team play, and then a Spanish football team. People think in different ways, and you've got to constantly adapt the dynamic to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I love that you go into offensive mode to try to get that out of people. Yeah, I think for the games that I host, it definitely is fun to watch strategy. But I also find that like with poker, it's just such a dynamic game, and every hand is so different, and you can play it so differently. That even if someone's like a real beginner, watching them play is fascinating too. Like the other day I hosted a game and there was this woman that was like she's definitely played before but isn't like trained or anything, and she was making these like crazy calls and basically like these like wild like river hero calls, and she was like right on most of them, and if you were trained you probably wouldn't have made those calls just based off of the hand that had unfolded before. And I think one thing that's like always fascinating is like just like it's just a reminder of like there's different ways to win, and like sometimes the training like you have to like rewire your training because it's not always right.
If I'm going to Vegas for the first time and I'm playing poker instead of blackjack, right? Because we want to play poker because we're playing against other people, not the house. Like,
Yeah.
what is the mental model of like a beginner wanting to play poker? How should I think about risk? How should I think about playing the game?
Yeah, I think um gosh, this is a tough one. Well, it's also very different for cash games versus tournaments. And like it's just such a different mindset. So like, because tournaments you have a set number, and so you're kind of it's funny. I find that like if you're trained in cash games or if you play a lot of cash games and then you play tournaments, the risk you're so risk on in cash. I think especially like, if you play in San Francisco and those San Francisco games, those games run like so risk on. And so people are making these crazy all-in moves all the time. And you're just trying to evaluate like, when you should kind of like four bet or do these like wild kind of like yeah like just wild moves and kind of outsmart people. Whereas like if you play in Vegas, it's first of all the games run a lot differently, and then also if you're playing tournaments, a lot of it like there's a lot of math around, what the blinds are, and so you are supposed to play slower at first and then kind of ramp up how aggressive you are and the risk and everything else. And so I do think that there's like a nuance there with that's like tricky to learn if you're like first starting, but I guess like general if you're a beginner and how you think about risk, I think it's all about bankroll management. I know that's a boring answer, but like, I think that there's like a big, like you have to think about value and like, okay, so how many blinds do you have and like how many hands can you play? Like how active do you want to be? And I think there's also, what I've seen beginners do a lot is, they'll do a lot of calling. And my biggest advice to people who are playing is like you just want to like make your life as easy as possible. So you either like fold or you're gonna raise. Like try not to like just keep calling and bleeding out money. And usually that's like a much better strategy for a beginner. Or you can call, but you're calling knowing that you would have raised. So like any sort of like middle, like, oh, I don't know, like this could be right, or like the odds are kind of in my favor. Like there's gonna be other hands. Like make your life as easy as possible with decisions. And that's usually my like number one tip.
I see. I wanted to know this because it sets the foundation for what I think, or how I believe you potentially invest, and we're going to figure that out right now, right? You talk about like it almost feels binary. It's either fold the cards or not. Sorry, fold the cards, don't call, or raise. Is that how you approach investing or partnering with founders? Is that the advice that you give at Chapter One?
Yeah, I think, well, so our strategy right now at Chapter One, so we're early stage fund, we're pre-seed and seed, and we have a high conviction strategy. And so we're investing in 1 to 2 companies per quarter. And when we invest in those companies, we really want to be like substantial partners for them. So,
Can I ask, the language that you use is partners. I haven't heard that before from a VC. Can you explain why you use that word?
Yeah, well, partners as long as they want us to be partners. Like there's some founders that raise and they're set. They've already built a company and they'll text us sometimes and want want more hands off like partners. And then there's other people that obviously like it's ends up being like a true kind of friendship and relationship where hopefully we can provide some insight on product or engineering or design or whatever it may be, and like really be kind of give that feedback that's helpful. So it's yeah, so there's a wide range. I think that it feels like we hope that it's a partnership, obviously. And then rather than just like I don't know, I guess the other option is like here's money, like build what you want and hands off. And then I mean sometimes there are founders that are so experienced that is what happens.
Clear. All right, so it's early stage investing, pre-seed, seed, high conviction. So you're writing slightly larger checks than your typical your typical fund might. Why the high conviction here? Why that play? Why do you think that is the right bet to make at such an early stage?
Yeah, and it's much different than like a model where you're kind of writing like follow-on checks. When you're writing like 50 to 100K checks, you're indexing the industry and you're hoping that one's an 11 labs returns the whole fund and the next one is a decagon, and you're like that also then that will like 10x you. And so I think, and you can definitely do that strategy depending on fund size and be very successful at it. I think when people enter kind of their like third and fourth fund, it ends up being more of these high conviction strategies where, you have 27 companies per portfolio, and it really is a decision like, as you said, like folds or all in, where it's either like it's a clean no or, you're investing 2 million, I guess for our fund size. And like are kind of negotiating that ownership of 7.5 to 10%. And um, and that's and like I guess those strategies are because if you do the fund math and you have a fund returner, then that's how you get the like the 10x funds, the 100 or 20x funds or whatever it is being really high conviction. And I think it's tough because if you like it's very tempting because there's so many smart builders and there's so many just incredible companies. Like the index strategy is like, you can come up with 100 companies in a portfolio that are all exceptional and 100 founders that are all building, companies that are just like really like could be revolutionary. But when you do the math on it, it's, like it's a better structure to be high conviction.
Interesting. I watched an episode of Twist this week in startups, and I think on the docket, JCal literally did just some crazy VC math on like back of the envelope type math. Is that the stuff that you can do as well, just in your head, just sort of like figure out what the return is, how much I need to roll in downstream? If this does what I think it's going to do, because of your technical understanding, you're like, oh, I can exit for this like 10 years down the line.
I'll give a lot of credit. So we have a full-time CFO and COO, Doug Dyer, and he was an LP before he joined the fund, and he was an LP at Texas Children's Hospital. It was a $2 billion fund, or it is a $2 billion fund, and so his whole thing is fund math, and he has a really successful Substack and all about like CFO stuff. And so I think that having his influence, like of like constant, like stay within strategy and like and if you go outside of strategy and have an exception, like know that you're making an exception, has like really been drilled into me. So yeah, I think that like I really like I care about the math, and I think it's obviously important, but I would say like Doug's influence is more than anything else.
Why was chapter 1 the right home for you? It feels like post Twitter, you sort of could have gone in any direction, whether that was going back into another incredible company, one of the fangs or the mangoes today. It feels like you could have worked at like one of these foundational model companies as well with your like mental model of the world. Why was it I want to go do investing, and chapter 1 was the right place for me?
Yeah. So I left Twitter, and I'd been there for I left before Elon, so he didn't fire me. Like I always have to. Like,
wait, just on that topic, then, would you have enjoyed the culture that they've built at Twitter now, or is that just like I did my time there? What I did was incredible, but yeah, that new version of X is not for me.
I think because this is tricky because I do love an intense culture. Like I always would, because I worked on bot detection, and it was a time when Facebook was, Twitter and Facebook was all anyone was talking about post 2016 election. And so we had a lot of spotlight on us. And I felt as if like Facebook was like attacking the problem, throwing so much money at it, being like so like Mark was so aggressive about how he handled it. And I felt like for Twitter, there was a lot going on internally, but then in the culture, like everyone's so brilliant, but it isn't like, I mean, Mark overnight, developed like through a team of 400 people of like on election interference. And so I definitely like love that type of like intensity. And I do think that like Elon kind of has those characteristics too, where if he attacks a problem, it's like, that's all he's thinking about, and it's a complete obsession. That said, there's so many changes to like the kind of culture, and I think that that's one thing that like Twitter's a really messy platform, and it's and everyone was really thoughtful that internally that worked on the product, and I think that having someone come in and just like rip everything rip everything up would have been really intense. And so I don't know if I would have I like an intense culture, but I don't know if I would have loved the changes that were made and kind of like some of the stuff that was going on internally.
Do you like using the platform now?
I actually don't. Like it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's really the algorithms changed for me. I don't know why there's so many short videos. I really felt like there was this kind of community, like, town square feeling for Twitter, and this is why I wanted to work here, because I was like, this was like the coolest thing ever, that like you get access to some of the smartest people in the world, and they're all in community together, and they all will talk to one another, and you feel like you're involved, even though obviously you're not. And so I think like I always felt that was really special on Twitter. Like I never was a big Instagram or Facebook fan, because like I don't, it's like it's all kind of, it's a lot of vanity stuff, and I just thought Twitter was the coolest. And now there's just, everyone's, I don't know who anyone is on my timeline. Like all the content is randoms, and they're all like short videos, and I just feel like the vibe has changed. I don't know. Do you feel the same?
I absolutely do, and I'm probably part of that problem that you don't like. I think that, and we can get into this, the media landscape has changed, and Twitter feels like a platform that is becoming the all-in, or X feels like a platform that's bringing everything together, right? I look at your Substack, and I was like, well, I think there's a place on X for that, because of the way that you can watch a video, you could listen to something and read the essays that you write. And so there's a lot of value add in this sort of like different mediums that I can consume at the same time. Like the show goes up and then the clips go up, but you can read a complete download of how people interact with, or how people are thinking about that particular clip or that particular episode whilst you're listening to it and watching it. I think, who's great at doing this? Molly from Sorcery, TBPN.
Oh yeah.
Do some incredible jobs with like how they
She's
write their
brilliant,
essays.
for sure.
Molly just doesn't miss. I've just come across her recently. Incredible. I don't know. I feel like I've been under a rock because it's just the show 24/7. But I do like the ability the speed of execution on the platform. Going from idea to tweet is faster than ever before, and on any platform, it's just a seamless experience. And I love that. Also, the on-ramp is incredibly great at keeping you inside the platform now, because it feels like they're optimizing from impressions and metrics. The more you stay in, the more you want to create, the more you want to feed it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think maybe my media strategy needs to need to get a stronger media strategy.
Hey, you know what? You can just have a weekly segment on the show if you want. I'm golden for that. I'll just show up.
We can just chit chat.
Sounds great. Okay, so back to Twitter. We spent some time there. Obviously, bot detection is incredible. Election nights must have been the most intense environment on the face of the earth. I remember being in a bar at 2 a.m. in the morning watching Trump come into power, and that was like, wow, that's insane. But at the same time thinking, well, this might change the dynamic of the world. Moving forward, like time left, did you take some time off before moving into chapter 1?
Oh yeah, sorry. So to kind of answer the original question, so yeah, I like Twitter was just a magical place. Like I loved working there, and the people internally were absolutely amazing. And when I left, I just felt like it'd been 5 years. Like I was like ready to kind of like move on, and it seemed like if I went to kind of a different platform, like if I went to Stripe or Facebook or any of these like big large tech companies, I'd be doing the same thing, where you're doing fraud detection, you're doing bot detection. It's all really interesting and so cool and cutting edge and like really, really important. But I just loved Twitter, and so I was like, I wouldn't do it anywhere else, because Twitter is the most interesting place to do this because the data is just crazy. And so yeah, from there I started to interview for a bunch of different startups. And that ended up kind of leading me to interviewing for different venture funds. And I got connected to Jeff through a friend of a friend, through a friend, Spencer Farrar, who works at Theory Ventures. And it was kind of like, for me, it was a really big moment in obviously my life because I ended up working at Chapter One, but just in tech in general, because Jeff was the center voice of like SF and LA tech. And for so many years, like he was really the only person on my timeline when I worked at Twitter from 2016 onward. And I felt like he was kind of, when I talk about like these communities of like town squares, like he was in that like who's who, or he is in that who's who of the tech scene. And yeah, it was just really cool to talk to him. And I think the first conversation we spoke about some of the data systems that he had built out, for as a solo GP. So the whole idea is that, when he raised the fund, he was still working at Tinder and he needed to kind of multiply himself. And so he had contracted out these data systems to look at Twitter and GitHub and all these different platforms in order to try to find founders at inflection points and when they were raising. And he had so many ideas on kind of how to extend that. And I really like having value as a person. And I was just like our first conversation, I was just said to him, I can build this. I know how to improve the platform and like what the V1 looks like, V2, like I know what the next year of this like kind of data sourcing and different different systems look like. And so yeah, I think like when I was talking to other venture funds, I didn't feel that same like spike. Like a lot of some other people were like, oh, like we're looking for this like specific analysis. And I felt like for me, I'm like, well, I've worked 10 years. Like, I'm not going to join a place to do like one analysis. I really wanted to like buy into a bigger vision. And Jeff had that. So yeah, I was like super lucky to kind of meet him at the time that I did and was really pumped to join Chapter One. Yeah, and it's been 4 years since, which is crazy.
Wild ride, right? Like I want to go back to that initial meeting where he was explaining to you the data structure that he wanted to build out, and you being like, "Hey, I can build that." When did it, from that initial thought of saying, "Hey, I know what V1, V2, V3 looks like," did it end up becoming that version that you thought about, or did it change and evolve into something else and something more meaningful and more value adding than you could have ever imagined?
Yeah, I think both. Like it was, it's cool because I mean I joined and then it was like a 2 month sprint of like, okay, let's do this. And I don't know. Again, I mean I take like working for companies and having a salary like really seriously. Like I really want to like,
It's
like
150% or nothing else.
yeah, you're paying me to do something. I really want to do it and do it really well and show the value. And so yeah, and so the first few months was like total sprint to build these, and then it kind of kept snowballing because obviously the more you get built, the more you kind of get like feature requests, like, oh, we should do this, like, how do you think about this, or oh, I went to this event and like this person was there, like, how do we think about capturing like that type of, or you miss a deal and you're like, how the hell did I miss that deal? Like we need to know, and we need data systems to like figure out how we missed the deal so that this never happens again. And so I think that there's a lot of really cool like high value like operational stuff that you can build within venture that we were all really excited about, and I was able to build out. And then I ended up joining the investing team probably at like 4 months in. So Jeff was really nice enough to have me join calls with him and evaluate companies like given kind of my background and yeah, and then from there I joined the investing team, and so now I probably spend about like 10-15% of my time building out these systems. And what's really fun is because AI agent, like just tools are so good now, you can build whatever you were building before.
Jamesin
like,
on steroids.
oh my god, it's amazing. Like I'm like, this is like this takes me like 5% of the time that it used to, and like it's just so beautiful. I think also a lot of the stuff we do is like you're just connecting APIs. Like some of the stuff you try to get around authentication, and that's like fun to do, and once you have it, you have it. And the API connection stuff is like it's just so easy to build. And,
so you must think about MCP quite deeply then, and like what that architecture underpinning a lot of these products will look like downstream, and how easy it's going to be to sort of move and shift between different data sets, different products, different profiles, and like what that end output looks like. I haven't figured out. What's your mental model for all of this?
Yeah, I think the mental model that we've been thinking about, and then also that the whole industry has been thinking about, is the tension between like AI is changing everything. There's every single company is going to be an AI company. Every single company will have automated systems, but on the flip side, a lot of this stuff is really easy to build because that's the whole point is to like make these like models that are extremely powerful and extremely intelligent available and like integrated throughout every single system. And so I think when we've thought about our mental models around how to invest in the space and how to invest in AI, a lot of it is around like it still goes back to kind of fundamental things like does the founder have a special like have a specialization that maybe no one else in the world has, or do they have a shared secret that allows them to outperform?
Because the best companies are built on secrets.
Yeah, a lot of the times. Or do they have a distribution that no one else, like, do they have a distribution channel that no one else might have? But then we've also seen in the market, like, are you able to execute faster than everyone else? I know there's like a lot of questions around this, like as like momentum as a moat, and some people like don't agree. Yeah, and there's like a huge, a huge discussion on whether that's true. But we have seen, because AI allows everyone to build so fast, you have to be at that pace, or else there's just no way that the company or the fund or anything is going to survive, because you have to keep up with that speed. And so yeah, I think that there's like a big, like, and I think that goes back to like the gaming kind of personas that, they're just like, gamers are so focused and so just used to just like all they do is execute, and then like that's what the market needs right now to win. Like, you obviously need to be able to build beautiful products, but a lot of like I did a Series B analysis the other day that was like mapping out kind of all of the investments that have raised a Series B in the past 2 years, like since AI, and a lot of them are in the vertical AI space. And in one hand, again, it's not surprising, because there's a lot of room to build in the vertical AI space if you take like law or finance or whatever it is. And like a lot of these kind of systems are archaic, and there's like LLMs kind of completely transform how those workflows are able to be efficient. But then on the other side, you have, hundreds of companies that are building the same thing, and so, but you have like certain winners that are in the space, and then have been chosen. So it was interesting to look at, in the sense where, you're like, I think a lot of with venture, and I guess this gets at another idea, whereas a lot of venture, like, you want kind of to invest in cutting edge technology, but at the same time, if like you're investing in OpenAI, that's like someone that's using OpenAI in an interesting way, like that's about execution, because a lot of people can build those types of systems.
What do you think about the vertical AI conversation? I was talking with an incredible company that completely thinks in the opposite direction. They believe horizontal is the way that they're going to expand the company and win, versus being vertically integrated. And today, especially in hardware companies, you see this move towards verticalization. We're rolling out a new format on the show, I can tell you off camera, that is going to be very much focused on that. And all of those companies are vertically integrated, right? Or think about it, building a technology vertically, owning the entire stack. For you, like, it's not black and white, right? That's the way I think about it. Like, there is a blend of, yes, you can go and innovate within a vertical, like you can innovate within a space if that's like drones or if that's like restaurants, but it doesn't have to always be vertically integrated. Thoughts?
Definitely not. I think that we've seen more winners that have been vertical in the past 2 years, or like the data shows that. But if you get something horizontal, it's bananas. Like, it could just be massive. Like, you have 11 labs. 11 labs is horizontal. Like, if they went vertical, they would be like one section of the customer service, voice agent. Whereas they're integrated in everything, and and obviously they've a unicorn status right now, and have crushed, and it's so impressive everything that they've rolled out. And so if you can find the right edge in horizontal, it's such a massive outcome for everyone. But I think that the reason why a lot of people have gone vertical is that it's easier to get customers, and there's a lot of white space with all the new technology. So I do, and also I think the go-to-market is a bit more straightforward. People know like why they're purchasing something, whereas sometimes with horizontal, you don't, like, it's hard to see, because you almost have to like sell. You're obviously selling into someone, and there could be multiple people that kind of are owners, and I think it gets a little bit more like, if it's not prosumer first, it's a bit trickier to kind of have that like initial like huge surge in order to keep your company alive.
Do you have a favorite type of company you like to partner with or invest in? Chapter one.
Ooh.
Have you noticed the thematic that Jamesin invests in?
I think for me, it's mostly like there's definitely a founder. It's less of like a company type and more of a founder type that I love partnering with. I love like I think. So I have no work-life balance. Like, I'm online 20. I know it's just what it is. Like, I'm online 24/7. It's all I think about. I'm just on my computer.
What does your time thing look like on your phone? Is it just 28 hours of screen time?
Yeah, I mean, I just stare at a screen all day. Like, and I think also because I'm in London and Jeff, who's managing partner of Chapter One, he's in Los Angeles. So like my day starts at 9, and then I'm doing work until 3, and I usually try to keep my number of calls light, and then I'm on calls from like 3 till 10, because it's West Coast time. So
I know
yeah,
the
it's
feeling.
24/7. Yeah, it's 24/7, and I really like. I mean, it's like. Anyway, I feel that grind, and I think like I do like partnering with founders that have that same you can feel it, and again like that's like it's you can you can put numbers around that, how much they work, or like looking at past like success or how quickly they iterate, or whatever it is, but yeah, I think execution for me is like always the biggest thing, and yeah, people that are grinders.
Have
I
you
think
found that there's a different dynamic between the founders that you've invested in the US versus the founders that you invested in Europe?
um That's interesting. I would say that probably not us, because I think it's like we're looking for like a similar pattern matching.
Right.
And then I just want to point out that's also just like that's my individual preference. I know like Jeff, as a general Chapter One, like he's like a total product person, and so like as a fund, we do love like people who are really thoughtful about product and go to market as well. But
Yeah, like Chesky's a great example of that, right? Like it has built an incredible company based on like having a real deep love for design versus like going straight up and building a generational product like X or Twitter, which is very much focused on like the consumer experience and like making sure that we can get the tweets out fast enough.
yeah, or even like so we were early investors in Superbase. Like Superbase is like
Get out of here, you were early investors in Superbase. What a product.
yeah,
You
or
must
Jeff
be
was.
loving it right now.
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable, like their growth, and also how beautiful their product is. Like,
Agreed.
day one, like if you think about, okay, I'm starting a company, day one, you're using Superbase. Like it's just it's such an incredible product. And I think that's like that shows that there's so much like engineering on the back end, but like on the front end, it's simple, and it's like it's easy to use, and like you can kind of get into different complexities, but like it's like it's just a beautiful product, and like that's a lot of the reason why they've won.
I agree. It is an incredible product. So I was using it to build some vibe code, some stuff with Lovable. Didn't quite understand. I was telling Josh, who was on earlier, I didn't quite understand like how do I build a backend database, and they just make it so easy, right? And now you have the agent that's built inside of Lovable, and it's sort of just one click go.
Yeah, and that's it.
And an
You don't have
on-ramp into the product is just super easy.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's nice.
I guess we have to ask then, like obviously you invest across the world, or are there specific areas that you focus yourself on?
Yeah, I think for us, about 2/3 of our I say 2/3 of our focus area is anything AI, ML, data, and infrastructure. I tend to focus more on the infrastructure side, and Jeff is
Right.
more on the applications. And then we also invest 1/3 in blockchain, and digital assets. And so it's just a part of the market that like there's just so much going on. It feels like a totally different world, but it's been Jeff and I both like are obsessed with everything that's being built in that area too. And
I was in the crypto space for a little bit. Like I internally inside of a corporate sort of like positioned myself as a Web3 expert for a while and try to upskill senior leadership on like what it meant to integrate that into their company.
Oh, yeah.
It is a completely different beast of a thematic.
Yeah, and even the
Too
term,
early. Just too early.
Sometimes I'll say like restaking, and I'm like, oh, actually, like this person's
Hold
probably
on.
never even heard of that.
Hold your horses.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's so much being built in that space. So those are the two areas that we focus on as a fund.
And so the types of individuals that you found and invested in and partnered with in there, are those the types of individuals that you're looking for with what you're going to start building with the engine room?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I kind of like back up and say what the engine room is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a new program. We're really pumped. what we're doing is we're giving 8 teams £5,000, and it's kind of like a pressure cooker environment they'll be building for a week. So partnering with AI Engine, which is a hackathon kind of initiative that Zoe from Dawn and I have built for the past year. And then we'll be hacking at Dawn Capital's beautiful offices in the middle of Soho, and have pulled in just incredible mentors that are founders who've raised hundreds of millions, operators at top companies, whether it be 11 Labs, Anthropic, 11 Labs, Anthropic, Coinbase, like kind of all AWS, all the who's who, Stripe. And the idea is that if people kind of, are just starting a company or have built a bunch of ideas in hackathon, but really want to kind of have that second like moment where they scale and figure out if they want to have a real go at being a founder, this is the perfect this is kind of the perfect space for them.
So it's 5 days and it's a curated amount of startups. Like you are checking off if they're like let in or not, or how does that work?
Yeah, so doing interviews now. I had interviews all morning and have been interviewing people for the past, I guess, like week and a half. And yeah, so we'll let in 8 teams. And it's like teams is kind of a loose term. It's teams or individuals.
Right.
So a lot of people that we've been speaking to are absolutely brilliant, but are solo founders right now and haven't found maybe the perfect co-founder or whatever it may be, but have been working on ideas. And so yeah, it'll be 8 people. We'll sprint for a week. There'll be a demo day December 1st, which is awesome. And the whole idea is, cultivating really like top engineering talent and having like creating that community and that space for them to build and kind of accelerate what they've been working on.
I love it. Why is this important? Why now? I've been to the Warsaw event at AI Engine. I was there with Zoe and the team. It's incredible. So I understand it from a perspective of like, it's great for the ecosystem, but like, why do you care?
Yeah, I mean, I care a lot. I think like there's a why now in a lot of different ways. I think there's also a specific why now with London. London is like there's almost no city in the world that attracts the same like engineering and math and computer science and like STEM talent and research talent than London. You have all these schools and universities that are top in the world. Like you have the Cambridge, Oxford, UCL. I guess, sorry, wider UK. I shouldn't say London. I know this is me being American, where it's like I need
it's the only place in England.
Yeah, like I need to like switch that switch that term.
It's okay. I do the same.
Yeah, so the wider UK, and like it's just incredible what people can build. So the talent is here. Also, the capital is here. So there's a big why now. Like venture has completely matured in the past 10 years in the UK, and now there really is the capital to fund all these ideas and startups. And then also the third thing is that there's like real examples of companies that have grown and have massive outcomes. And I think that's important for the ecosystem. And so people see 11 Labs and see Maddie and meet the 11 Labs engineers that are absolutely brilliant. And they say like, oh, I want to do this. Like, this is fun. And this is really cool. And, I don't need to go into finance. I can go into tech. And so I do feel like the UK is at this like really like specific moment where the ecosystem isn't as mature as SF or as New York, but the talent is there, and that's what we're excited to kind of highlight and tap into and surface and be involved in. And so I think there's a big why now. Also, like accelerators are just long. Like you have like 8 weeks. You have to like totally quit your job. You give up 8%. You don't even know what you're getting for 8% a lot of the time. And like I think unless like if you go to YC, obviously YC is of value. And
different beast, right?
Different thing,
heavily
yeah,
matured. Like, it's one of the best accelerators on the planet. Like we understand this.
For sure, yeah. And so, but I think like committing to an accelerator is a big deal. Like giving up 8% of your company is massive as a founder. And a lot of times people are doing that without actually knowing what that means, giving that up so early. And so, and then also hackathons are like one weekend, and a lot of them have kind of like specific things that you have to build. Like you have to, compete in like the like search, like, vertical, whereas like your idea might not be in search or whatever it is, but you still want to go and highlight your work.
Can you give us a flavor of the types of companies you're letting in, the types of ideas you're letting in?
Oh gosh, I will announce the cohort. We're finalizing the cohort on Wednesday, so
nice.
I'll announce it then. Yeah.
And then it starts November 10th.
Yeah, it starts next week. So
Starts next
it's
week. And
yeah, it's been a
and
big
it's
sprint.
5 to 10 every evening.
5 to 10 every evening. So if people work,
Wow.
they can still join.
Incredible. Do you feel like that's going to attract a lot of more people because you've like opened up the evening and they don't have to quit their job, they don't have to take time off work?
Yeah, and also and students. Like, we're getting people like top talent from like Cambridge and Oxford and UCL and Imperial also applying. And so if they're like in their final year, they might not like join an accelerator for 8 weeks, but if like they're starting a company, this might be the starting point. And so, or like if you're doing a PhD, again, you don't really want to enroll in a program for 8 weeks, but if you're thinking about commercializing what you've been building, this is a great program for that. And so we just felt like it was like the right structure in order to support the types of teams and engineers that we want to partner with.
Zoe's incredible, right? Why was Dawn the right? Why Zoe and Dawn and the hackathon partnership, the right partnership?
Zoe is unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
I can't emphasize it enough how like she's such a machine. Like she's so good. She's so good at her job. And have felt like so thankful to partner with her just because like I've just never seen anyone execute like she can. And I also think like I work hard and she is like so beyond that.
No,
Like
it's so
anyone
true. I was speaking to one of her
I've
like one
ever
of her
worked with.
portcos in Double Word with Mariam, and she was like, Zoe's she's a monster when it comes to working. Like her ability is just incredible.
Yeah, and also she's really detail oriented too. Like there'll be stuff where like I'll send it to her and like it'll be like the fifth paragraph and she's like we need we need more explanation on this. I'm like, you're so right, we do. But like why are you reading the fifth paragraph? Like you should have skimmed over it, you know?
AI.
Yeah, it's been really, really incredible working with her, and I feel so lucky to have kind of like had this partnership to have happened, and I think for Zoe specifically and Dawn, this kind of all came up. We like both have an engineering background, and right around like January of last year, I guess it was before that, like right before the year ended, we were kind of like we connected through another investor. We're super excited about kind of building a hackathon, but weren't really sure like what the structure was going to look like, and kept and then like we were going back and forth on whether we should do it, and then finally like 4 weeks before we're like, fuck it, let's just build, let's just do it, we're gonna do it, like we're gonna get it done and it's gonna be awesome. And it really was. And so Zoe wasn't like my like she was just she got brought in by someone else with Dawn, but it ended up being like such a amazing partnership and like so perfect because we both have this like we both have an engineering background, we both love to build, and I think it's been and we both love to see what other people can build and support. And I guess that's like why Zoe and why Dawn. It's also been really nice because we're early stage and they're later stage, so it's there's no like kind of conflict there, I suppose. I mean, there isn't really conflict anywhere. It's because venture's so collaborative. Like for our summer hackathon, we also partnered with Crane and their early stage, and that was amazing too. Like their team is so great, and so.
Here's a question then,
Yeah.
right? Like if we go a bit of broad picture, and I want to comment on, I'd love your take on one of the comments you just made. This idea of zero-sum game in venture or zero-sum game in life is something that I think a lot about. We play life as this zero-sum game where it's I have to win and that's it. But venture, as I've come to understand, is not like that at all. It's like you can get into a round downstream. You can really like if you miss the pre-seed or you miss the seed or you miss the Series A, like you can get into it at a Series D and still make phenomenal gains and like really be a part of growing and hyperscaling that company. How do you think about venture right now being a zero-sum game or not being a zero-sum game in terms of conflicts?
Yeah, I don't think like I mean this one's always tricky because I don't think like just because someone succeeds doesn't mean like you're not going to or someone else doesn't. I do think that in terms of just the market and venture, it is very competitive. And so if you're in San Francisco and you're competing against like Sequoia and Khosla and other, investors that have just the absolutely incredible deal flow, like you really have to have a reason why you exist, and why someone is going to choose you as an investor versus someone else. And and like I think you have to have a really deep understanding. That said, like the kind of I would say historically the markets have shown is that there really can be like it's the economy's massive. To like say, I mean that's like such an understatement, but like there's like there's valuable companies that are created like every
Yep.
month after month after month, and so like you just have to work hard enough to be able to like find those partnerships, and like if you're like just because someone is doing well doesn't mean like why aren't you finding the next like why aren't you partnering with the next like billion-dollar company. So yeah, I mean it's definitely competitive, and I think that like it's like in a way like there's of course going to be massive losers in this cycle, and there's a lot of venture funds that aren't going to return, but I don't think like that's your fault if you like that's not because someone else is doing well or someone else is winning. It's all on you if you're not doing well.
Do you feel that pressure when you're investing, even though the sort of output is 5, 10 years down the line when that investment matures?
Oh yeah, I mean every day. Yeah, it's so competitive. So
It must
I
change
think
the landscape or your mental model of how you associate risk, right? Like given that like you were doing these very quick decisions at a poker table, and now these decisions can be sort of spanned over a 10-year period.
yeah, I think the timelines are really long, and also it's Adventure's a lot different than I thought it was going to be when I initially joined. And
Really?
so, yeah, like especially like because I joined from a data perspective, in my mind, what you were supposed to do is you were supposed to create data systems that identified, the smartest people in the world. Then you reached out to these people and got on a call with them. Everyone responded to you, and then you invest in really, really smart people. And while like that's what I thought. And what I've learned over the past 4 years is that it really is about relationship, like it's about relationship building, and it's about like trust and kind of understanding of like, you like understanding of like who like founders like they have to choose you, of course, and then you have to like have be able to have the conviction to be able to make that investment. And so yeah, I think like I didn't realize I was going to become basically a professional event planner. But that's part of venture, and I think that's a lot of like how the ecosystem has developed. And so yeah, I mean every day you're like waking up being like, oh my gosh, like like it's also other people's money. I think I would feel a lot differently if I was like running like my own family office somehow.
Would
And
you
when
run
you're
it
investing other,
differently?
yeah, I think like it's I don't know if like I would make different decisions, but like you feel less like pressure around like, for example, I mean when I was kind of doing a lot of crypto trading like after I left Twitter before I joined Chapter One, and when you're moving like your own money around, like it's like you kind of you don't really think about the risk as much just because you're uh like like there's no like almost like you don't feel bad for losing anyone's money because it's like your own money.
And
Whereas
and because the gains are gigantic, it's like it's just fun money at that point.
yeah, and you're like yeah, you're just kind of making these decisions, and you're like I mean you also with crypto you obviously never should be investing what you're not willing to lose. And so yeah, so I didn't feel like pressure like making big financial decisions. I didn't like feel that kind of like pressure because I was like, well, I mean this is my own money. Who cares? Whereas like the second you take LP money, it's just a totally different yeah, it's a totally different kind of
Would you be a better
evaluation.
investor if you invested as if it was your own?
I don't think so, but I do think that I would like yeah, I think it would probably change. Like I mean, I do feel like a lot of pressure to return capital to our LPs, and so maybe that's just like a mental like a mental shift rather than like a like decision making.
All right, quick fire round before we let you go. You've put up with me for an hour, so I appreciate you. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Favorite moment from Twitter?
Favorite moment?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. The first one that comes to mind was we were I mean normally I probably wouldn't be allowed to say this, but I feel like enough time has gone by. But basically we were like there was eight of us that were just like no one was sleeping. We all were in a room and we were all preparing the congressional hearing. Like we were preparing the analysis for the congressional hearing, and it was such a big sprint because it was such a massive deal. And we realized none of our queries were going through.
Get
And
out of here.
so we started like looking at people's queries because it was all public. Like you can see kind of what people are querying. And I know this should be a shorter story because we're doing rapid fire. So I'm sorry this is so long. But
This is
one of
great.
the query that was taking down the customer, taking down the cluster was select some length tweets from tweet source with no dates. So what someone was doing is they were trying to see what was of all the tweets that have ever been tweeted, what was the total length of like how many characters, how many words, how many
Oh
characters
my
of
God.
all of Twitter of all time. It was like someone on marketing was running this query and it took down the cluster and we were like, you have to be kidding me.
That is so funny. All right. Do you have a favorite poker hand that you've played that just sticks in your mind?
Oh, that's an interesting one. No, I think I'm pretty like fluid with like I don't like I'm not like hot-headed and I like yeah like wins and losses kind of like come and go. So there's nothing like I hate one of my dad's things is he hates bad beats. Like he drives like he like when people come up to him and they like want to like talk about like a bad beat that they had or whatever, like that's poker, like so much of it's random. And I think he's really ingrained that in me is if you have a good hand and you got really lucky, that's like beautiful. Or like if you did a good bluff, like congrats. But if you got a bad hand, like that's also gonna happen.
Did you ever beat dad?
Um, yeah. I mean, we've like there's been some moments we've played at the same table that I've won pots against him, but like definitely not in terms of like there's no way I can outthink him.
Love it. You've also spent some time sports betting or working on one of the most incredible sports bettors on the planet. I just want to know, for a period of time, like, was there a bet that you looked at that you thought, like, this is absolutely ridiculous, this is not going to hit, and it hit?
So yeah, I mean, it was such an incredible experience working for Bob. I feel so grateful to him to allow me to work on his team because he's truly the greatest of all time. I think in terms of, well, so there was a time that we were doing that like the major bread and butter for the team was totals, but I was also was betting on fantasy, and what was really cool is like if you like in for the daily fantasy tournaments, we're putting in like thousands of lineups, and if you were able to run the math and kind of get like if someone was out, for example, and you were able to rerun your lineups and get a player that like really hit, that was like that was really cool to see, and a lot of like that's like math and stats and like a real edge.
It's your cup of tea. Right, last question. One thing I love to ask investors on the show and founders is like, who's on their Mount Rushmore of investors and founders? In your case, because you work at the intersection, I want to know both. 2 founders, 2 investors. Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh gosh, this is such a good question, and
There's a reason I ask. Because you learn who appreciates the craft, and you learn who also like their personalities are like.
yeah, I mean, definitely on the investor side, Tomas Tungus from Theory Ventures. He's just like he's so incredibly brilliant and thoughtful. And I think that also his newsletter with all the data analysis that he does is just so brilliant. And so I've also his investing themes, like they're very, very, very thesis driven, and I really respect that from them. The other one I would say probably oh gosh, First Round Capital, like they just crush, and so Todd Jackson is a close friend of the fund, and he's just an incredible investor. So I'll put them too as the Mount Rushmores.
Awesome.
And I know we're at 2 o'clock.
It's okay. We can go slightly over. Give me the two founders.
Okay, the two founders. Um, God, who has done such an incredible job? So I'm trying to think of people who like aren't aren't the norms like the Mark Zuckerbergs or whatever it is.
For you, who are they?
And
It's just you personally, right? Like everyone's got an affliction to a certain type of founder, a certain type of individual. I love Larry Ellison. A lot of people have underrated him for a considerable number of years, but he's built a bulletproof business. I think Jamie Dimon's another one, right? Not a founder in his own right, but a steward of JP Morgan. I think you could argue to an extent, sort of rebuilt the company, after the financial crisis and like took bets. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Jobs. So I look at the way that Apple was created in those early days, and I want to live the way that Johnny Ive and Jobs thought about the world and think about the world. For you, who are they?
yeah, I would say like the modern ones, like Brett Taylor is just like, it's just he's had the most incredible career, and then to do it again, and have like he's just like with Sierra, of course they've been able to raise so much money because he's Brett Taylor, and so they already have a leg up being able to kind of like straight out of the gun raise 200 million. But that said, like he's consistently shown that he's been able to lead really like incredible and innovative teams, and he's so thoughtful. Like you listen to him on like any podcast, and it's just like every word you're thinking like this, like it's next level. And so yeah, I'll put him on. And then probably the second founder. Gosh, there's so many like within like early stage that I just think have like done incredible jobs and are really thoughtful and can execute. But I'm just trying to think of like the like one that really stands out.
I can see the cogs
Gosh,
turning.
I know it's because I just don't know. Like
Give me one of the portcos.
Yeah, I'll do one of the portcos. I was actually gonna go with Mert from Helios. And you were probably familiar with him because because of the crypto Web3 space. But I think one thing about Mert is like he's been able to like first of all he's so brilliant, and they're like monster engineers, like the whole team is. But second, I've like so respect that he's basically like tweeted himself into like the Mount Rushmore of crypto. And like I mean he's at this point like more famous than Vitalik on Twitter. And to have that, to be able to like have that type of capability to like lead an engineering team, but also like be able to formalize thoughts and in real time and tweet them and create like this like following around you is really, really, really difficult. And
I think we're coining that term, tweet aura, from now on.
Yeah, and I don't know, I've just like really respected like everything he's built, and it's been really amazing to watch the company grow, and then also his profile grow. And I think that it kind of gets back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like there's different ways to win, and I think that he's like found a really unique path for like how he wins, and I really respect that, and I respect the hustle because. Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to both like build a successful company and then also build a successful brand, and to have like both of those like converge and yeah, like intertwine.
Jamesin, this has been an absolute blast. I've got one small ask. Would you let me stream one of the days from the engine room?
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. Would love for you to come. Yeah, or you can.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's
okay,
do it. We'll do
after.
that. We'll do demo day. I'm going to give you a call when I jump off stream. This has been fun. I'm looking forward to doing it again in person.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. See you.
Thanks for the time. See you soon.